So this is going to be a general overview film on the class itself, what's expected of you, how I organized it, and I'm hoping to create as inclusive and welcoming and clarifying of a space as possible, even though we're going to be interacting in terms of a DL experience, so distance learning experience. So I look forward to reading what you write. I look forward to hearing your thoughts about the class, and I'm really excited about the opportunity to teach African American history, particularly the second half, during a period that's during a time period where this topic is just so relevant. And so I appreciate you taking this journey with me, and I hope that you look forward to these weekly engagements and videos that I'll send you. So with this being said, let's start with how do you navigate your way through the Blackboard site. So I'm going to share my screen. Here you see kind of traditional student mode for the Blackboard site. If you're curious where to go for an overview of the course, click here for the syllabus. And we'll open up the syllabus and just give you a general overview. Let's blow it up so you can see. It means that this is still the kind of traditional content that you would cover in a 15-week course, but it's accelerated. And so we will do the breadth of African American history since 1865. And as such, you may feel like there's a decent amount of readings and or assignments, but I've tried to not adjust what I teach and not adjust what you read, but I have tried to adjust how you communicate and convey what you've done, such that these projects and assignments within the syllabus are truncated, shortened, briefer assignments. Not because I think that the topic doesn't deserve or kind of robust, expansive methods of essays, but I really want to be able to succinctly understand your understanding of the readings and your understandings of what's expected. And so I don't want you to think that some of these assignments, although I ask you to keep your writing brief within 500 words or less, I don't want you to think that that means that it has to be less rigorous. I want you to think deeply, I want you to read deeply, and I want you to condense your work in separate notes and then give me the gems that you get from the readings. All right, so course overview. One of the, this African American history class is one of the two related courses associated also with the history of 235, which is African American history until 1865. So that's the earlier class, which may be taken in either order. It's a survey history of African Americans from the beginning of Africa and to the present. That's what the earlier class, that's the history 235 class is. But this is the second half. So what we're looking at is we're going to include topics including debates between Du Bois and Washington, Booker T. Washington, African American contributions to world wars, the Harlem Renaissance, the struggle for equality, strategies and continued economic, political, and social progress. The course does not substitute for 235, and so looking at course outcomes, right? Upon the completion of this course, you will be able to identify methods of social control that replaced slavery in the southern states, compare and contrast the various strategies of racial advancement in the late 19th and early 20th century, analyze the causes and effects of the 20th century African American migration, describe the effects of the Great Depression, World War II, and the Cold War on African American life, during life and culture, obviously also World War I. Assess African American activism in the mid 20th century. Demonstrate, understand the political, cultural, social, and economic changes in the late 19th century. Understand the diversity of Blackness as a space for African American cultural identities, meaning Black people aren't a monolith. Like, if understanding this class doesn't mean that you understand all Black people, and understanding that through the readings you will understand a kind of more expansive way to ask questions internally about your understanding of African American history, and to practice that externally, through readings and all these other kind of ways that we consume intellectual processes. and I'm really passionate about this last one. Is one that I've integrated into the course as my own kind of a way to think through African American history. You will be able to use race, gender, class, and sexuality as categories of analysis, explaining their distinctive significance in the history of African Americans since 1865. So that kind of helps us get to how we are not looking at Blackness as a monolith. We understand that Black folk, and you'll hear me say Black folk often as a colloquialism, we understand that Black folk or Black people look at and are engaged with ideas about race, gender, class, sexuality in different ways, particularly given where the historical roots are and their ethnic roots are within within the U.S. and beyond the U.S. Understanding that also an integral part of understanding African American history is understanding like the African diaspora and the fact that we have people that identify as Black coming from all over the world within African American within America. So that's also a really important intellectual frame for the way that we'll engage in this course. You see that the course reading is a textbook primarily by Robin D.G. Kelley, the brilliant, preeminent scholar, and he's the editor along with Earl Lewis. And the book we're looking at is To Make Our World Anew. And so that's a textbook. I hope you've already purchased it. Also, I noticed that the library has some digital downloads that are available, but I do believe from checking in with them that there's a limited amount of downloads. And so that's the reason why I signed the book itself, because I didn't want anyone to get stuck out there thinking that they could have digital copies access, and then the licenses ran out or what have you. Resources. Here are some additional resources on how to cite the materials around for the class. If you need tutoring assistance, I provided links. In terms of additional assignments, so within the syllabus, you'll see what's due each week. You'll see it over here on the right side of the syllabus. And so we have, I want you to post your Prezi response. We'll get into that on the Blackboard site, exactly what that means. Watch the introductory video. This is the introductory video of the course. And so you're doing that. Good job. And I have a quiz that I've developed. What I would love for you to do is take a quiz that lets me know, that helps me understand how clear you are on what's expected of you from this course. So 15 questions. If you read the syllabus, if you visit Blackboard, if you watch this video, you should be fine on passing the quiz. I also allow you to take the quiz multiple times. The first quiz, not all the other quizzes, multiple times. But this one I'll let you take multiple times. Why? Because when you take the quiz, it will tell you if your answers are right or incorrect, right or wrong. And I want you, more so than to just be assessed on if you got it right the first time, I want you to learn what's expected of you in this class. And so that's why I have you allowed to take it multiple times. The work is due this coming Monday by 5 p.m. And so the work, meaning the Prezi, post your response, and also that quiz this Monday by 5 p.m. And that's the flow for the subsequent part of the classes. The only thing that I will add is weekly, for the rest of the weeks, I would love for you to do your Prezi response, which is going to be a response to a question that I provide to you, a film response, because every week I'll show you a film, your primary source lab, because every week you'll have a few documents to read to help you understand the time period in a more in-depth way. What's a primary source? A primary source is something from the time period from which we're studying. And it gives us an ability to understand the time period from which we're studying in a more clarifying way. So textbooks, like I'll give you an example. This is the textbook from the class. This isn't a document from the time period. This is a document that summarizes scholarship that other scholars have done about these time periods that we're studying. A primary source, for example, if you're studying something about the Civil War, it's a letter written by someone living in 1863. It could be a photograph of someone in 1863. It could be a song that was written during the Civil War. It could be an artifact It could be a weapon from the war. It could be a dress worn from the war. Journal entries. So those are primary sources, and so we will do deep dives with materials from the time period from which we're studying, because I think that's the best way that we can understand use our own intellectual analytical thinking skills to understand the time periods. So textbooks will summarize the primary sources. You will analyze. Okay, you will read these sources and look at these materials and analyze and develop your own critical thinking skills based off these materials. And so and then you'll have a weekly quiz, brief quiz. The first quiz that you have for the week is multiple choice. All the rest of the quizzes are true or false. Again, the goal isn't to trap you, it's to make sure that you understand the material. So we'll do that for 7 weeks. You see the metrics of grading, understanding, of course, A grade is superior work, it's thoughtfully done, it doesn't have errors in it, it's relevant to it answers the questions I asked you to answer, but it also has an ability to help me see why I asked you the questions were important. Like, it frames this question matters because. That's what an A grade is. It doesn't just say yes, no, maybe as a response. It doesn't say yeah, it doesn't say I don't know. So an A grade is thoughtful. A B grade is I saw you were trying and you answer most of the questions, and yet the prose is a little bit confusing in sections. You missed some really high points that would have been obvious connections, but you had an ability to let me know that you understood the topic, but your response was a little weak. C grade is something comparably to a B, but there is a big difference. B grade also may have a ton, like not a ton, may have a couple grammatical errors. C grade, a lot of grammatical errors. I see where you're going, but if you had just taken the time to rewrite or read what you wrote out loud, you probably would have gotten a B. D grade, you answer the stuff. I am a little confused how you got to where you got. And F, you didn't submit the work. I believe that in a time when pandemonium, right? We're in a pandemic. Right now, in COVID, help me to help you. If you submit the work, you're going to get at least a D. I don't believe in getting Fs to people that are submitting work in the middle of pandemonium. But I hope that you enroll in this class to get better than a D. So if you want A work, submit A work. If you want B work, submit B work. If you want C work, submit C work, so on and so forth. So that's how I do grades. So what's it consist of? So you have these weekly précis, 500 words max. They're due every Monday. Answer the prompt on Blackboard that I submit, and then turn it in by 5. Quizzes, you do your quiz by Monday. That's 25% of your grade. Also, all of these components are 25% of your grade. Weekly film critique. You do not have a film critique for the first week because I'm giving you time to get adjusted to the flow of the class, right? So you have a film critique, which is no more than 500 words as well. You're going to post your response to the question that I submit on Blackboard by the following Monday at 5. Primary source lab. You will post your response to the questions, read the primary source document that I upload by the Monday at 5. So that's what it looks like. I will submit the folder will be open Monday for the next set of work. So April 5th, Monday, that's when I'll open up the next one for the following Monday. And that's how we'll go into the class, the flow, until this is over, until the semester is over. I had a statement on the principles of teaching in a time of the pandemic. A lot of us look forward to returning to in-person teaching that forms the foundation of our shared intellectual life. When it's safe to do so, that's when we want to do it, right? So during this extraordinary time of crisis, we come together as a community of scholars, teachers, archivists, students, administrators, to affirm the following principles, which shall guide our response into actions going forward. I want you to take care of your health and your family members' health first and foremost. I want you to understand that Teaching flexibility at periods of time might be something that I require because of the work of working in a pandemonium. An example of this is me uploading this video on Wednesday because what happened? My laptop broke, and now I have a brand new laptop, and I had to get my things together. All the things are more complicated in this kind of work from home environment. It's not the same thing as being able to take your computer to IT on campus and, tinking around really quickly. With that being said, I won't use this as an opportunity to be lazy or shortcut any of the work that I'm giving you as like my presentations of the classes. I take this very seriously, and I hope that you will as well. But I'm committed to keeping this frame of like flexibility open. If at any point you have a lot of things going on that require a little bit of flexibility, and I mean serious, like you have looked within yourself, and there's too much going on for any week, reach out to me. Let me know. I need to know what's going on with you so I can help you show up as your best self on the student side. Technology, while technological innovation in the classroom is important, we're reluctant to burden instructors and students with new, cumbersome, costly tools. So I'm doing my best to give you use technology to tell you what's expected of you so that you can give me what's expected of you. And I need you to understand too that today more than ever, it's really important that you feel like this class has an open door policy, and it does. You may have noticed, if you've already looked at the syllabus, that I do not have formal office hours. That's because I really want to be more flexible. I don't want to have this kind of rigid, like, oh, you couldn't make it during this time period, so I'll see you next week if you can. I really want you, if you have a question, if you want to check in, if you're thinking about majoring in history, if you're thinking about not majoring in history and you're just trying to figure out what you want to major in, I want to have some open office hours. So feel free, if you need some time to check in, email me. Full transparency, there is a section on the quiz where where I asked the question, if you have a question about the class, what should I do first? I'll give you an answer if you're watching this. This is one answer. The first thing I want you to do is look over the syllabus and look over Blackboard. And then the second thing I want you to do is email me. Now, if you don't have a question, but you just need to check in, email me. So I don't want it to sound as if I don't want to hear from you. It's just, if you have a question and it's possible that the answer to the question is already on Blackboard and or in the syllabus, I want you to check that first. Why? Because I want you to have the tools that you need to do your job. And I don't want you to have any kind of delay around doing your job. Now, if it's not here, email me. If it has nothing to do with this class and you're just trying to understand, like, hey, professor, how'd you become a PhD in history? Email me, that kind of stuff. So I hope that's clarifying. All right, so next, we are going to course content. This is where you will go to understand what's expected of you weekly. I have frozen the subsequent weeks. I will eventually open up the rest of those weeks so you can see them, but I froze them now because I really want you to focus on the week that we're in. We are in week 1. Focus on week 1.